Thank you, everybody. You know, I haven't been here for a while, and I was an honoree in 2009, I think. And it's really impressive how far we've come. Please, I want to tell you about Sebastian. I met Sebastian Seung in 1983 when he was a 16-year-old freshman at Harvard. I first spotted him walking around the campus with shorts on in the middle of winter. And I actually never knew why he did that, and I asked him today, and he said, you know, that's what I wore in Texas. I didn't bring any other clothes. I just thought I would do the same thing. He's very practical and very matter-of-fact. I first actually met him in Korean language class. I know, it's getting late, guys, but just give me a minute. I really want to tell you the story of Sebastian. So I first actually met him in Korean language class, and we were both students of former KACF honoree Yong Lee. We still call her 선생님. And for 40 years, she's been the glue that held us all together. And I mention her because I really don't think that any of us would be where we are without the support of Yong. Yong, 선생님. Thank you and happy birthday. You know, at that time in the 1980s, at so many of these great institutions, we all had big dreams. But we knew that Sebi, as we called him, was the truly brilliant one. He could have taken his career in many different directions, and eventually he decided to do a PhD in physics. He came to Harvard at 16, and he finished his PhD by 23. And as someone who's been in higher education for a long time, that is just stunning that someone could do that. I'm sure he could have had a wonderful career as a physics professor, but in addition to having more raw brain power than anyone I've ever known, Seb had an insatiable curiosity about literally everything. He's the most impressive polymath I've ever met. And along with his brilliant, wide-open mind, he had a level of discipline that was legendary. One day, while we were both grad students, he told me that he'd read a paper that said that the 24-hour day was really out of tune with human circadian rhythms, and that we really should be living on a 25-hour day. So, of course, he decided that he was going to live 25-hour days and adjust his schedule that way. So he did this for 3 or 4 weeks. We didn't see him much because he'd be sleeping when other people were awake. And he stopped, and he said to me, you know, it was the most productive time of my life, but I was just so lonely I had to stop. But this is the kind of discipline that he had, that he could do that all by himself while the rest of us were sticking to the old 24-hour cycle. You know, his brilliance, his openness to new ideas, and real discipline led him to switching careers several times. After completing his PhD, he went to Bell Labs and also took a professorship at MIT. There, he made important contributions in artificial intelligence, neural computing chips, and robotics. In the late 2000s, he made a second career switch and became a pioneer in the application of AI to mapping the brain, something he'll talk about tonight, creating an entirely new field. Sebastian Seung created this field of connectomics. In those early days, connectomics was highly controversial among everyone in the neuroscience field. But by advancing the underlying AI technologies, Sebastian and his team began to convince the skeptics of his claim that connectomics would prove as revolutionary for neuroscience as genomics has been for biology. Some of this revolutionary research was published today in the most prestigious journal, which is Nature. And if you just Google Sebastian Seung on New York Times, He's quoted today in a wonderful article about just how world-changing his research is. He's also a gifted science communicator. He's well known through his TED Talk, I Am My Connectome. Check it out. It's really a wonderful explanation for a general audience. And his book, Connectome, How the Brain's Wiring Makes Us Who We Are, was chosen by the Wall Street Journal as a top 10 nonfiction book of 2012. In addition, while keeping his lab going at Princeton, he took another leap and moved to Korea to become president of Samsung Research, where he managed sites in over a dozen countries that conducted advanced research in AI, robotics, virtual reality, and many other fields. Most recently, Sebastian became a technology entrepreneur and founded Zeta AI, which has become the leading company that's commercializing connectomics. So, here's my message to all of you today. For the investors in the room, there's so many of you, bet on and invest in anything that Sebastian puts in front of you. It'll be worth it. I have been trying to convince him to go into the business field for a long time. And I told him for decades that he should be the richest man in the world. Now, imagine how much better everything would be if Sebastian were the richest man in the world today. Brilliance, creativity, discipline, humanity, and decency. Sebastian is truly incomparable, and I'm so proud to say that he's been my friend for more than 40 years. I can't wait to see what he does next. Ladies and gentlemen, Sebastian Seung.
Distinguished guests, friends, it's an incredible honor to be recognized by my tribe. I can't think of any other honor that could possibly bring me such delight. Greg, Gina, and John, thank you for being the biggest and best science fans ever. Thanks to Dr. Jim Kim and Vice Chairwoman Mi-Kyung Lee for being a big brother and big sister to me when I was a snot-nosed teenager at Harvard. My scientific mentor, Professor David Tank, and my longtime scientific collaborator, Professor Daniel Lee. They're both here tonight. I've learned so much from you, and I'm deeply grateful for your help over the years. And special thanks to all of my friends. There's a lot of friends out here. That's why this honor is so wonderful. Especially my friends who made the trek from New Jersey. Let's hear it for New Jersey! The birthplace of AI. You didn't know it. You didn't know it. And my sister Flo and her husband Ed, who came all the way out from California. And my wife, Avon. She's given me strength throughout all my struggles. I love you, and thank God I met you. And my friends know exactly what that means. I am known as a cartographer of the brain. But please, your expectations might be a little bit high. You're probably expecting a human brain. That's what we wanted, but it was too big. We thought about mapping a dog brain, but it was too big. Mice are cuter, but their brains are. Fish are less cute, but their brains are. What about bugs? Gross, gross. Their brains are smaller, but they're kind of big. Except a fruit fly is really tiny. In Korean, chopari. See, I learned a little bit from my Korean teacher, Mi-kyung Lee, just a little bit. Maybe we could map the fruit fly brain. And so I teamed up with Professor Malamurthy to create the Flywire Consortium, which grew to include 75 labs and hundreds of scientists around the world. And so I guess the question is, do you want to see a fruit fly brain? I'm feeling a little shy, a little inadequate. I'm not that well endowed in brains. Yeah, get those reading glasses out. Those little round things, you see those little circles? Those are called vesicles. They contain neurotransmitter, right? Fancy word. You've heard of neurotransmitters before, glutamate, dopamine, serotonin, and so on. They're also found in the fly brain. A synapse is a junction between two neurons. On the sending side, a neuron spits out the contents of one of these vesicles. And on the receiving side, another neuron senses that. That's how neurons inside your head communicate also. I like to tell my undergrads, hey, Princeton undergrads! I like to tell the undergrads that when you're reading a Shakespeare sonnet or listening to a Beethoven symphony, your neurons are just spitting on each other. Or spring is here, so maybe I should say they're enticing each other by spreading their perfume. This brain is 3D, and this 2D image is just one of a stack of 7,000 slices. No human could ever examine all 100 trillion pixels in the data. So we built an artificial intelligence, an AI, that searched through the images to identify tens of millions of synapses. We built another AI to paint each neuron with a unique color, tracing all of its branches in 3D. We ended up with more than 100,000 neurons. You're looking at just the 50 largest ones in this slide. So I'm showing you a few of the largest neurons in the fly brain and also a few of the smallest neurons, but there's 100,000 neurons inside this brain. Everywhere I click, this brain is full of neurons. Here's the 50 largest. By tracing all branches and identifying all synapses, we mapped out what is known as a connectome. The fly connectome was published last October to worldwide media attention. Influencers ran with it. We even got 15 seconds on Saturday Night Live. That's what my age group knows. Neuroscientists around the world are using the fly connectome daily. This search bar at the bottom is the doorway to a universe of information about the fly brain. In just a few seconds, you can type in a query and get back information that used to require years of labor by a PhD student. The technologies that we developed to map the fly brain are being scaled up to larger brains. Here's a New York Times story today about our efforts in a little piece of mouse brain. The connectome is the beginning of a digital transformation. Neuroscience will accelerate, and speed is what we so badly need. No one wants to wait any longer for breakthrough research on the brain disorders that cause so much suffering. Some scientists are using the fly connectome to build digital simulations of a fly brain. They want to make a virtual brain that enables a virtual fly to see, hear, smell, walk, flirt, and sing. You could say that one fly sacrificed her life for science. I like to say that flies evolved 250 million years ago, but this is the first fly to attain immortality. She will live forever in simulation. Stephen Hawking is an icon of science.
And I quote, "If we find the answer to that, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason, for then we would know the mind of God."
Hawking described theoretical physics as the quest to know the mind of God. I once studied physics, but my quest has become humble. Now I study the mind of a fly. Yet inside the head of a mere insect, maybe you can glimpse the miraculous. Perhaps the mind of a fly can reveal the hand of God. Alas, no one today wants to talk about paradise. They prefer to talk about doom. Professor, tell me, is AI going to take our jobs, our dignity, and finally extinguish the human race? My PhD prepared me to discuss neither paradise nor the apocalypse. But please allow me to say, as a person, what I believe. I believe that humanity is far from realizing its full potential. Our adventure is just beginning. I believe that the universe is rich with infinite wonders, and it is the destiny of humankind to see them all. I suspect that our obsession with doom afflicts us because our bellies are full, but our lives lack meaning.